placed in a separate part of the record.
Without objection.
What a weekend in Chicago. 13-year-old boy, Adam Toledo, on March 29th, in the wee hours of the morning, was stopped by police, shot and killed in an alley in the city of Chicago. Thousands have been gathering in his memory since. The videotape of the arrest was released last week, and there is that stark moment with his hands up that he's being shot and killed, 13 years old. There's a lengthy debate going on in our city and our nation about the role of the police, the fairness of law enforcement, what's happening with children in areas of poverty, and guns. This past weekend, our nation's epidemic of gun violence continues to devastate families and communities. The Adam Toledo tape wasn't the only thing that happened. In the city of Chicago, yesterday, Sunday, 7-year-old Jaslyn Adams was shot and killed in the backseat of a car while at a McDonald's drive-thru with her father. She was one of 27 people shot in Chicago this weekend, 5 of them fatally. In Kenosha, your home state, Madam President, a gunman in a tavern on Sunday morning killed 3 people and wounded 3 more. In Austin, Texas, 3 people fatally shot on Sunday morning in a reported domestic violence incident. And on Thursday night last week, for the 3rd time this year, another mass shooting in Indianapolis, a FedEx facility. 8 people died. These are just some of more than 100 Americans who were killed every single day by guns in this nation. This, unfortunately, is not an isolated set of events. This is not just a rare, tragic weekend. This is America 2021. One of the key parts of an effective response to this crisis is understanding it. And that raises important questions about news coverage of gun violence as well as anything else. I asked to include in the record an April 5th column in the Chicago Tribune by Heidi Stevens entitled, "Why Aren't Chicago's Mass Shootings Included in the Outcry Over Recent Violence in Atlanta, Colorado, and California?" I ask unanimous consent to include.
Without objection, so
Thank
ordered.
you, Madam President. Heidi Stevens' column in the Tribune points out that the media often subjectively defines and covers what it considers to be mass shootings. All too often, mass shootings in communities of color are left out of the coverage. And this is wrong. It is unfair. It is nothing short of an outrage. It needs to change. We need to understand the full scope of this crisis that's killing so many Americans with reliable, objective data that is quickly made available. The Center for Disease Control keeps count, but there's a time lag with their data on firearm deaths and injuries. Right now, the latest official CDC report on gun deaths is from the year 2019. There's a website, though, Gun Violence Archive, that keeps track of shooting incidents virtually on a real-time basis. I believe that news coverage of mass shootings in America should use the definition and statistics provided by the Gun Violence Archive. They define a mass shooting as an incident in which 4 or more people are shot and either killed or injured, not including the shooter. It's a purely numerical standard. It's not subjective. And according to the Gun Violence Archive's definition, I want to put this on the record in the Senate. So far this year, by their definition, there have been 153 mass shootings, and yet we're only 109 days into the year. 9 of this year's mass shootings so far have taken place in Chicago. 4 people fatally shot in these shootings and 50 injured. It's important to gather this data as quickly as possible so that we can respond effectively. Last week, I spoke on the floor and commended President Biden for speaking out. He recently announced an important set of executive actions on gun violence. steps to limit untraceable ghost guns, help states pursue extreme risk protection orders, which incidentally, the state law in Indiana apparently was not solid enough or tamper-proof enough. It was overcome there for the latest mass shooting. Report on firearms trafficking patterns, and nominate an experienced ATF veteran, David Chipman, to be the first Senate-confirmed director of that agency since 2015. You see, Madam President, many of the critics of gun safety legislation say just enforce the laws we have. But if you've been around the Senate for more than 15 minutes, you realize the agency that has a major responsibility in that, ATF, is notorious for being underfunded, understaffed, and to go without leadership. That's part of the design of people who really don't even want to see the laws enforced. I'm particularly encouraged by President Biden's commitment to provide federal resources for community violence interdiction programs through the American Jobs Plan and other grant programs. This is the type of serious investment we need to tackle this crisis. This president has taken constitutional common sense steps to reduce gun violence. But what have we done? Nothing. I held a hearing in the Judiciary Committee a few weeks ago on gun violence. We're going to hold more. Senator Blumenthal of Connecticut chairs the subcommittee with that responsibility. Hearings are important so that we can put together legislative reforms and appropriate funds. The House has already passed a bipartisan bill to close gaps in the gun background check system. Really, the ball's in the Senate's court at this moment. We need 10 Senate Republicans to help us get to 60 votes necessary to overcome Republican filibusters. Will our Republican colleagues stand up and vote to close these gaps in the law? Will our Republican colleagues support the president's call for funding community violence interdiction? We need to act. Saving lives from gun violence should not be a partisan issue. It is an American tragedy. Sadly, we learn by the day that it is not an exclusive blue state problem. It is a blue state and a red state problem. It is an American problem. We've had too many mass shootings, too many Americans dying in gun homicides, suicides, and accidents. Let's take bold action that meets the scale of this public crisis. Our nation is counting on us. I yield the floor.
Junior senator from Kansas, Alabama, my apologies.
That's okay. I've been called worse. Thank you, Madam President. Today I want to talk about two very important